Picture this. Hallways built for 400 students. Lockers lining walls that once slammed shut between classes. A gymnasium where Friday night crowds roared until rafters shook. Now, silence. Complete, suffocating silence. Because the school, Maple Ridge High, has exactly one student left. Her name is Clara Vance, and she's 17 years old. While everyone else transferred, moved away, or gave up, she stayed. And in 3 weeks, she'll become the final graduate this school will ever see. The last name called. The last diploma handed out. The last person to walk that stage before the doors lock forever. Why would anyone choose to be the last? Stay with me. This story will change how you see loyalty forever. Maple Ridge High wasn't always a ghost town. Rewind 10 years, and you'd see something completely different. Hundreds of students flooding through those doors every morning. The parking lot packed with beat-up trucks and hand-me-down sedans. The smell of cafeteria pizza mixing with floor wax and teenage cologne. Basketball games that packed the gym so tight you could barely breathe. Spring dances where the whole town showed up to watch kids spin under crepe paper streamers. But mountain towns are fragile things. When the sawmill closed, the first families left. Then the post office shut down. Then the grocery store. One by one, for sale signs sprouted like weeds. Clara watched her classmates disappear. Emma moved to Denver for her dad's new job. Marcus transferred when his mom got work 2 counties over. By sophomore year, her class of 38 had shrunk to 12. By junior year, 5. And by the start of senior year, Clara sat in homeroom next to one other student, a quiet kid named Dylan, who transferred out by October. The school board held a meeting that November. Attendance had dropped below the state minimum. The roof needed $40,000 in repairs they didn't have. 3 teachers had already retired, and no replacements were coming to town with no future. The vote was unanimous. Maple Ridge High would close at the end of the academic year. The announcement barely made the regional news. Just another small school in another dying town. Another casualty of economic collapse and demographic shift. Have you ever watched your hometown fade before your eyes? Because that's what was happening. And Clara was about to make a choice that would define everything. The transfer letter arrived in January. Thick envelope, official county seal. Inside, a glossy brochure for Valley Consolidated High, the regional school absorbing students from 3 closed districts. State-of-the-art computer labs, competitive sports teams, college prep programs, a pathway to somewhere that mattered. Clara's father held the brochure like it might bite him. Jack Vance was a mechanic, a widower, and a man who measured his words carefully. He wanted his daughter to have opportunities he never did, but he also understood something most people had forgotten. Roots run deeper than logic. You should go, he said, not meeting her eyes. This place has nothing left to give you. Clara looked at the brochure, then at the photo on the mantel. Her mother in a Maple Ridge leather jacket, 1996, smiling on the front steps of the school. The same steps Clara walked every single day. I'm finishing what I started, she said quietly. Here. Her father started to argue. Stopped. Started again. Then just nodded, because he knew his daughter, and he knew when a battle was already lost. Drop a comment. Would you have stayed or left? What would you do? The county tried to change her mind. Guidance counselors called. The principal, who was also the janitor by that point, offered to drive her to Valley himself. But Clara's decision was final. She would be Maple Ridge's last student, and she would graduate from Maple Ridge's stage, even if she had to do it alone. What would you sacrifice for a place everyone else abandoned? Every morning, Clara's truck rattled up the empty access road at 7:45. She parked in a lot designed for 200 vehicles. Then she walked to the front entrance and unlocked the doors herself, because there was no one else to do it. The hallways stretched out like a museum of her own childhood. Locker 94 still had Emma's old stickers peeling off the door. The drinking fountain on the second floor still dripped, just like it had since 6th grade. In the trophy case, dusty plaques celebrated championships from decades ago: basketball, debate, track. Names she'd never know. Glory that predated her existence. Her footsteps echoed, creaked, announced her arrival to no one. Room 212 was where she met Mr. Anders every day. He'd been teaching at Maple Ridge for 32 years, math mostly, but now he taught everything. History, English, science, government. He'd sit at his desk with coffee in a chipped mug and say, "Morning, Clara," ready to learn something. Like they were running a normal school, like the world hadn't moved on without them. And here's the strange thing. It was the best education she'd ever received. One-on-one instruction. Questions answered immediately. Discussions that went as deep as they needed to go. They worked through calculus on chalkboards that hadn't been replaced since the 80s. Read Steinbeck and Toni Morrison under fluorescent lights that flickered like dying heartbeats. Debated philosophy in a classroom where dust motes danced in the afternoon sun. But solitude has a weight to it. During lunch, Clara sat in the cafeteria alone. Sometimes she'd move to different tables, pretending. She'd sit where the theater kids used to gather, or where the basketball team claimed their territory. She'd imagine conversations, gossip and laughter, and complaints about homework. Then the silence would crash back in, and she'd remember. Those people were gone. Living new lives, making new friends. Probably not thinking about Maple Ridge at all. Have you ever been the last one left somewhere that once meant everything? The gymnasium was the hardest place. The roof had partially collapsed during a winter storm, and no one had bothered to fix it. Tarps covered the damage, and you could see sky through the gaps. The basketball hoops hung crooked. The bleachers were pushed against the walls, folded up like secrets no one wanted to hear anymore. But Clara went in there sometimes anyway. She'd stand at center court and close her eyes and hear the phantom roar of crowds that would never come back. She'd remember pep rallies and terrible school dances, and the night her sophomore class held a fundraiser bake sale that raised $300 for new band uniforms. Uniforms that never got ordered because the band dissolved 6 months later. Was she honoring something sacred, or just being stubborn? She honestly didn't know, but she kept showing up, kept learning, kept believing that staying mattered, even when everyone else had decided it didn't. Hit that subscribe button if you believe some battles are worth fighting alone. Spring arrived the way it always did, mountain wildflowers and late snow and mornings that smelled like pine and possibility. But there were no senior class traditions. No yearbook signings because there was no yearbook. No prom committee because there was no committee. No senior pranks. No countdown calendars. No caps and gowns ordered in bulk. Just Clara and the approaching end. In April, the county sent another letter. This one from the superintendent himself. They wanted to hold her graduation ceremony at Valley Consolidated High, with the other graduates on their stage, in front of their families. It'll be more dignified, the letter said. More appropriate. You'll have a real graduation experience. Clara read it twice, then folded it in half and tucked it in a drawer. "I'm walking the Maple Ridge stage," she told her father that night. "Clara, there might not even be. I'm walking the Maple Ridge stage." The county called. Clara didn't answer. They sent an administrator to the house. Clara was polite but immovable. This wasn't about pride or stubbornness, though maybe it was a little of both. It was about refusing to let this place vanish without ceremony, without witness, without someone saying this mattered. You mattered. Mr. Anders didn't say much, but Clara noticed him making phone calls during his lunch breaks. Quiet conversations, old contacts. She didn't ask what he was planning, and he didn't volunteer the information. She prepared alone. Found her mother's graduation photo in a shoebox. Same gymnasium, same stage, 1996. Her mom's smile was wide and fearless. Her cap tilted at a ridiculous angle. Clara stared at that photo for a long time. Then she went to the attic and found fabric. Sewed her own gown because the school had no caps and gowns left in storage. Cut the pattern from memory. Stitched it by hand in the evenings while her father watched TV in the other room. The entire town had written Maple Ridge off as dead, but Clara was about to prove them wrong. Clara woke up before dawn on graduation day, June 5th, a Saturday. The sky was the pale gray of early mountain mornings, and the air smelled like rain that hadn't decided whether to fall yet. She put on the gown she'd made. It wasn't perfect. The hem was uneven, and the stitching showed in places. But it was hers. She looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. When had she gotten so old? When had her face started looking like her mother's? Her father drove her to the school in silence. She expected the parking lot to be empty, expected to unlock the doors and walk through those hallways alone one last time, expected to graduate in front of an audience of two, her dad and Mr. Anders, if she was lucky. But when they pulled into the lot, Clara's breath caught. Cars, dozens of them, trucks with mud on the tires, sedans with out-of-state plates, even old Mrs. Henderson's ancient station wagon that everyone assumed had died years ago. "What?" Clara started. Her father just smiled. "Go see." She walked to the front entrance. The doors were already unlocked, and when she stepped into the gymnasium, she stopped breathing altogether. People, everywhere, filling the folding chairs someone had set up in neat rows, standing along the walls, packed into the bleachers that had been pulled down for the first time in years. Former students who graduated a decade ago, teachers who retired and moved away, neighbors and shopkeepers, and the lady who used to run the post office. Emma was there, drove 6 hours from Denver. Marcus flew in from Seattle. Even Dylan, the kid who transferred out in October, stood near the back with his parents. The collapsed section of roof was covered with tarps, but someone had strung lights across them. The basketball hoops were draped with blue and gold streamers. School colors. A banner hung crooked above the stage. "Congratulations, Clara." Mr. Anders stood at a podium that hadn't been used in years. When he saw her, his eyes went bright with something that might have been tears. "We couldn't let you do this alone," he said quietly. The ceremony was simple. No speeches from superintendents or school board members. No awards or scholarships announced. Just Mr. Anders at the podium, his voice steady despite the emotion cracking underneath. "Clara Marie Vance," he said, "class of 2024, the final graduate of Maple Ridge High School." The walk felt endless. Every step echoed. Clara's hands were shaking and her vision blurred, but she kept moving forward, one foot in front of the other, down the center aisle, up the steps to the stage she'd walked across 100 times for assemblies and presentations and moments that felt important then, but felt tiny compared to this. Mr. Anders held out the diploma. It was handwritten on thick paper. She looked at it and saw signatures, dozens of them. Every teacher who'd ever taught at Maple Ridge had signed it. Some of the signatures were shaky with age. Some were faded, but they were all there. "Thank you," she whispered, taking it. She turned to face the crowd. All these people who'd driven hours, rearranged schedules, taken time off work, just to watch one girl graduate. This is what community looks like when it refuses to forget. Clara didn't have a speech prepared, but words came anyway. "This school is closing," she said, her voice carried in the damaged gymnasium, bouncing off walls that had heard a century of voices. And that's sad. It's the end of something that mattered to a lot of people for a long time. But endings don't erase what came before. Every person who walked these halls, who learned in these classrooms, who grew up in this building, you're all proof that this place was real, that it meant something, that it changed lives. She looked at her father, at Mr. Anders, at the faces filling the gym. "Thank you for coming back. Thank you for remembering. And thank you for letting me say goodbye the right way." She placed the cap on her head, handmade like the gown a little crooked, and the crowd stood, not politely, not out of obligation, but because something bigger than protocol was happening. They stood for a place that had shaped them, for a legacy that deserved honor, for one girl who refused to let a fading town disappear without dignity. The applause was thunderous. It filled the broken gymnasium and spilled out to the gaps in the roof, rising into morning sky like a prayer or a battle cry, or both. The next morning, Clara unlocked the doors one final time, walked the hallways in silence, ran her fingers along locker doors and classroom desks and the water fountain that still dripped. She stood in the gymnasium where yesterday's celebration had felt like a resurrection. Now it was just a building again, tired, ready to rest. She locked the doors behind her. The county would take possession the following week. Demolition was scheduled for September. But here's the thing about endings. They only matter if someone bothers to mark them. Clara left Maple Ridge that fall. Full scholarship to a state university, 3 hours away. She studied education, because of course she did, because Mr. Anders had shown her what teaching could be when you strip away everything except the human connection. Because she understood now that places don't matter as much as the people who refuse to forget them. Maple Ridge High is gone. The building was torn down on schedule. The land was sold. In 5 years, someone will probably build storage units or a gas station where the gym used to be. That's how these things work. But because one girl refused to let it fade quietly, the story survived. Newspapers picked it up. It spread online. Other small towns facing closure started holding ceremonies for their final graduates. Started marking endings instead of just letting buildings go dark. Clara's choice became a template. Proof that dignity matters, even in defeat. Her graduation photo now hangs in the town hall, right next to her mother's. 2 generations, 2 graduations, same school, different eras, but connected by something deeper than time. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Like this video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, what place in your life deserves to be remembered? The sun sets behind Maple Ridge every evening. The building is gone, but if you drive past the empty lot, you can almost see it, the outline of hallways, the ghost of a basketball court, the echo of 400 students who once filled those rooms with noise and life and possibility. What are you the last keeper of? What will you refuse to let fade? Next time, I'll share the story of a town that died twice and came back both times. You won't believe what happened. Don't let the story end here. Subscribe, share, and keep these voices alive.